The most powerful people right now are Xi Jinping from China, Putin from Russia, and Trump from Americazz. But power hasn't always looked the same. Throughout history, it's taken the shape of armies and empires, religions and ideologies, kingdoms forged, and civilizations wiped out. From conquerors who redrew the map to thinkers who restructured societies, these figures left marks so deep, the world still carries their weight. Here are 15 of the most powerful people in history. And trust me, these aren't the types who just sat in fancy chairs and posed for photos. Let's start off with Number 15, Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was a Roman general, statesman, and dictator whose career transformed the Roman Republic into the foundation of the Roman Empire. His military victories, political maneuvering, and personal dominance reshaped one of the most influential civilizations in history. Born in 100 BCE to a patrician family, Caesar entered Roman politics early and rose quickly. He gained massive popularity among the public and built powerful alliances. His pact with Pompey and Crassus, known as the First Triumvirate, secured him command in Gaul. There, Caesar proved a master tactician. His self-written commentaries on the Gallic War boosted his reputation in Rome. With the Senate fearing his rising power, Caesar defied orders and crossed the Rubicon in 49 BCE, sparking civil war. Victorious over Pompey, he returned to Rome and declared himself dictator. His reforms overhauled Rome's calendar, Senate, and economy. But in 44 BCE, fearing his growing authority and popularity, senators led by Brutus and Cassius assassinated him, setting the stage for the empire. And this was the end. Number 14, Charlemagne. Charlemagne, also known as Charles the Great, was king of the Franks, king of the Lombards, and eventually the first Holy Roman Emperor on this holy earth. His reign marked the return of centralized rule in Western Europe following the chaos after Rome's fall. Through warfare, political reform, and cultural patronage, he shaped Europe's future. Born around 742, he inherited the Frankish kingdom alongside his brother Carloman after their father Pepin the Short's death in 768. When Carloman died in 771, Charlemagne became sole ruler. Over 40 years he expanded his territory, conquering the Lombards, subduing the Saxons, annexing Bavaria, and campaigning into Spain. In 800, Pope Leo III crowned him Emperor of the Romans in Rome, reviving the idea of a Western Roman Empire. His rule blended Roman, Christian, and Germanic traditions, forming medieval Europe's foundation. He supported education, preserved classical texts, and standardized religious practices. After he died in 814, the good times ended. Number 13, Alexander the Great. Alexander III, or Alexander the Great, forged one of the largest empires the ancient world had ever seen, and he achieved it all before turning 33. Born in Pella, the capital of Macedonia, Alexander was taught by Aristotle and trained in warfare under his father, King Philip II. When Philip was assassinated, the 20-year-old Alexander claimed the throne and immediately began expanding Macedon's reach. In just over a decade, he led campaigns that crushed the Persian Empire, then the most dominant power in the known world. Starting with victories at Granicus, Issus, and finally Gaugamela, Alexander dismantled Persian control across Asia Minor, the Levant, Egypt, Mesopotamia, and into Persia itself. His empire reached deep into Central Asia and the Punjab region of India. When his troops refused to push farther east in 326 BCE, he had built an empire stretching from Greece to the Indus River. What made him powerful wasn't just military brilliance, but the lasting cultural transformation his conquests sparked. Number 12, Winston Churchill. This Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during World War II held authority at a time when Europe and arguably the world faced collapse. His leadership, commanding rhetoric, and refusal to yield to Nazi Germany made him one of the most consequential figures of the 20th century. Born in 1874 into an aristocratic family, the son of Lord Randolph Churchill and American heiress Jenny Jerome, he pursued a military career and later entered politics. By the 1930s, his influence had waned, and his warnings about Hitler were largely dismissed. After Germany invaded Poland in 1939, Churchill returned as First Lord of the Admiralty. Following Chamberlain's resignation, he became Prime Minister in May 1940, just as Hitler's armies surged through Europe. Britain stood alone. His strength came from defiance. His speeches in Parliament and on the radio ignited national resolve. Alongside Roosevelt and Stalin, Churchill helped shape the Allied victory. Despite criticism, his wartime leadership remains central to how history remembers him. Number 11. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin led the Soviet Union from the mid-1920s until his death in 1953, wielding immense authority that reshaped both his nation and the 20th century global order. As General Secretary of the Communist Party and later absolute leader, Stalin transformed the USSR into a superpower, but at a staggering human cost. Born in Georgia in 1878, he adopted the name Stalin, meaning man of steel. After the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution, he climbed the party ranks. By the late 1920s, he had eliminated rivals like Leon Trotsky, cementing his control. Stalin ruled through fear. His Great Purge saw hundreds of thousands executed and millions exiled to the gulags. During World War II, he first signed a pact with Nazi Germany, then allied with the West after Hitler invaded in 1941. The Soviet Union suffered over 20 million deaths, but emerged victorious. Post-war, Stalin shaped the new global balance, from Germany's division to the nuclear race. He left behind a brutal legacy of mass repression, victory, and global influence. Number 10. Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, born Temujin on the Mongolian steppe around 1162, rose from humble beginnings to become the founder of the largest contiguous land empire in history. His early life was marked by hardship. After his dad, a tribal chief, was poisoned, his family was left destitute. Temujin grew up in a violent world where survival meant forging alliances and dominating enemies. With charisma, strategy, and sharp political instincts, he gradually unified the fractured Mongol tribes under his rule. In 1206, he was declared Genghis Khan, which basically means universal ruler. Once in power, he led brutal and swift military campaigns that conquered northern China, Central Asia, Persia, and parts of Eastern Europe. By his death in 1227, his empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. His strength wasn't just warfare, it was how he governed. He codified laws, promoted Silk Road trade, and built a communication network across continents. His empire was violent, but it also rewired the whole global history. Number 9. Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria ruled the United Kingdom from 1837 to 1901, overseeing an era of vast global expansion and deep societal transformation. Her reign, known as the Victorian era, saw the British Empire grow to span nearly a quarter of Earth's land and population. She became monarch at just 18 after her uncle William IV's death. Though inexperienced at first, Victoria quickly proved resilient. Her marriage to Prince Albert in 1840 shaped much of her personal and political life. They had 9 children, whose royal marriages across Europe earned her the nickname Grandmother of Europe. Victoria worked closely with prime ministers like Disraeli and Gladstone, influencing public and political life. In 1877, she was crowned Empress of India, symbolizing British imperial power. Her era emphasized duty, morality, and order, but also saw stark inequality. After Albert's death, she withdrew for years before returning as a beloved monarch. Her Diamond Jubilee in 1897 confirmed her status as a global icon. She died in 1901. Number 8. Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon rose from modest roots on the island of Corsica to become King of France and one of the most influential figures in history. His military campaigns and state reforms reshaped Europe in ways still felt today. Born in 1769, he studied at French military academies and soon stood out as a brilliant artillery officer. His rise began during the French Revolution, which opened the door for ambitious talent. By 1799, he took power in a coup and became first consul. In 1804, he crowned himself emperor, a statement of authority. On the battlefield, he redefined modern warfare. His victories at Austerlitz and Wagram cemented his legacy. He controlled most of continental Europe, placing family and allies on thrones. He modernized France through education reform, centralized rule, and the creation of the Bank of France. His 1812 invasion of Russia failed. After his final defeat at Waterloo in 1815, he was exiled to St. Helena, dying in 1821. Number 7. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the U.S., is among the most powerful leaders in modern history. His presidency spanned two of the most defining crises in American memory, the Great Depression and World War II. Born in 1882 into privilege in Hyde Park, New York, Roosevelt was a distant cousin of Theodore Roosevelt and shared his reformist spirit. After earning degrees at Harvard and Columbia Law, he entered politics and rose steadily. In 1921, polio left him paralyzed from the waist down, but he refused to retreat from public life. In 1932, during economic collapse, he won the presidency promising a New Deal. Through sweeping reforms and direct radio communication, his fireside chats, he restored confidence. When World War II broke out, he mobilized American industry, built vast military forces, and formed crucial alliances with Churchill and Stalin. He was elected to an unprecedented 4 terms. He died in April 1945, just before victory in Europe. His impact shaped the modern American state. Number 6. Augustus. Augustus, born Gaius Octavius and later called Octavian, was the founder of the Roman Empire and its first emperor. His rise reshaped the Western world. Born in 63 BCE, he was the grandnephew and adopted heir of Julius Caesar. After Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE, the 18-year-old Octavian stepped into the ensuing chaos. He formed the Second Triumvirate with Mark Antony and Lepidus, defeating Caesar's killers, Brutus and Cassius, at Philippi in 42 BCE. But internal conflict followed. In 31 BCE, Octavian's fleet, led by Agrippa, defeated Antony and Cleopatra at Actium. With their suicides, Octavian became Rome's undisputed master. He consolidated power carefully, maintaining a republican facade while ruling as emperor. His reign began the Pax Romana, 2 centuries of peace and stability. Augustus restructured the army, reformed taxation, and built infrastructure. He ruled for over 40 years and died in 14 CE. Number 5. Qin Shi Huang. Well, now this was the guy. Qin Shi Huang, born Ying Zheng, was the first emperor of a unified China, and his rule marked one of the most radical transitions in world history. At just 13, he became king of the Qin state, which had already grown strong under earlier reforms. Through relentless military campaigns, he conquered the rival states of Han, Zhao, Yan, Wei, Chu, and Qi. By 221 BCE, he unified China for the first time in recorded history, declaring himself Qin Shi Huang, first emperor of Qin. His grip on power was total. He dismantled feudalism, centralized rule, and appointed officials loyal only to him. He ordered regional walls to be tied, laying the groundwork for the Great Wall. He enforced strict legalist laws and silenced dissent with brutal punishment. He infamously burned books and buried scholars alive. His tomb complex, guarded by the terracotta army, reflects his obsession with power and immortality. Ironically, the mercury elixirs he took for eternal life may have caused his death in 210 BCE. Number 4. Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth is regarded as one of the most transformative figures in human history, not through military force or political control, but through a message that reshaped the world. Born in Bethlehem around the time of Herod the Great's reign, Jesus grew up in Nazareth, the son of a carpenter. His teachings emphasized compassion, forgiveness, and inner righteousness. He welcomed outcasts, healed the sick, and preached love for God and neighbor. His parables, drawn from daily life, spoke to ordinary people, but often challenged religious authorities. Around age 30, he began a public ministry that drew large crowds across Judea and Galilee. Seen as a threat, he was arrested during Passover, condemned by Roman authorities, and crucified. His followers believed he rose from the dead 3 days later, a belief that became the cornerstone of Christianity. Number 3. George Washington. George is remembered not only as the first U.S. president, but as a leader whose influence shaped an entire nation's foundation. His power came not from conquest or monarchy, but from restraint, vision, and trust. Born in Westmoreland County in 1732, he came from a landowning family, though not elite. With limited formal schooling, he learned surveying, acquired property, and entered military service during the French and Indian War. When tensions with Britain escalated, the Continental Congress appointed him commander-in-chief of the Continental Army in 1775. His strategy, endurance, and iconic acts, like crossing the Delaware and the victory at Trenton, kept the Revolution alive. After defeating the British at Yorktown in 1781, he surrendered his commission, refusing power. Elected president in 1789, he guided the new republic through its fragile beginnings. He stepped down after 2 terms, establishing the precedent of peaceful transition. Washington's legacy rests not in domination, but in his refusal to rule as a king. Number 2. Pharaoh Ramses II. Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great, ruled Egypt for 66 years during the 13th century BCE and stands as the most powerful pharaoh in history. His reign was marked by absolute authority, military campaigns, and a monumental ego. He led brutal wars against the Hittites, Libyans, and Nubians, and claimed victory even in battles like Kadesh that ended in stalemate. He filled Egypt with statues of himself, carved his name over earlier kings, and built temples on a scale never seen before, most famously Abu Simbel. Ramses treated diplomacy like conquest, forced massive labor for his projects, and rewrote records to glorify his image. He declared himself a living god and crushed opposition without hesitation. His rule stretched so long that when he died, people thought he couldn't. His mummified body, preserved in a golden coffin, still commands awe. Ramses didn't just rule Egypt, he was Egypt, but not anymore. Number 1. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham, who was the 16th president of the U.S., led the country through its bloodiest conflict, the Civil War, preserved the Union, and abolished slavery. Born in 1809 in a Kentucky log cabin, Lincoln came from modest roots. He taught himself law, entered politics, and rose through Illinois state government and Congress. In 1860, he won the presidency as a Republican opposed to slavery's expansion. His election triggered Southern secession. When Confederate troops fired on Fort Sumter in 1861, war broke out. Lincoln, though not a trained soldier, grew into a capable wartime leader. He delivered defining speeches like the Gettysburg Address, framing the war as a fight for equality. His Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 freed slaves in rebel states and allowed black men to join the Union Army. Lincoln's leadership guided the North to victory. Just days after Lee's surrender, he was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.